Warning, the following video has flashing lights and also includes content that may be deemed inappropriate for some viewers. Viewer discretion is advised. Mike, aka the Gable guy, yes, who is responsible for the creation of the legendary Gable Film, yes, has made his way into the darkness of the Fox Den as you are officially tuning in to another episode of Midnight Lycanthropy here on LordeStarfox Radio. And yes, of course, Mr. Barber, aka Bigfoot's Barbershop, is here as well. Absolutely delicious. Mike and Mr. Barber, I do appreciate both of you bringing me some very important nutrition and allowing me to release myself from these shackles as we again get ready to walk into the darkness and the madness known as the Michigan Dogman.
Stood up. I said, oh my god, it's a werewolf, and everybody in the car freaked out.
My creatures of the night, yes, welcome back to Midnight Lycanthropy here on LordeStarfox Radio. Yes, I see you, as well as Mr. Barber, have already found your way into the darkness of the Fox Den and are sitting around the late night fire as we again burn the timber into the early hours of the morning. Yes, we have Mike, the Gable guy, which if you investigate anything to do with the Dogman and you watch Monster Quest and you know Doug Highcheck, you have got to know this film. And it still gets churned around almost daily as well. There's no way this could not be a Dogman. How you doing tonight, man? I appreciate you stopping in.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Mr. Barber, how are you doing, my friend?
Yeah, we have it's amazing how many YouTube videos are out there, and I mean, pat on the back to what he created because it's legendary. It's going to stay, it's out there and nobody's going to forget it anytime soon, and probably long after we're still gone they're going to debate this no matter how much truth comes out.
Isn't that how it is? Well, Mike, before we start really diving into some of the great stuff we'd like to touch base on tonight, I see too that you had been doing some engine swaps. I believe you said painting the house. Geez, you've definitely been putting in some work, yeah?
I've been a little busy this week, yeah.
Happens to the best of us. What about you, Mr. Barber? What have you been doing?
Just, working, and I'm going to really enjoy tonight because, like I said, I saw this when it first aired, and living in Traverse City, I mean, how you don't escape that. So
yes.
I need to meet the man behind the film.
I did try and, reach out to Steve Cook. Never got a chance to speak to him and always wanted to speak to Mike. Well, Mike is here. Before we dive into just basically what made you put the whole Gable film together, what really got you interested per se into the Michigan Dogman and such? Because I know you said you really don't dive into too much of it these days, which I feel very appreciated that whenever you did decide to search for it, you happen to find my thread. and make a comment. So that's how we are sitting here right now. Did you or do you believe in any of this, or are you kind of up against the fence?
I love the fact that these mysteries are out there, that people believe in these, but I don't. I don't believe in any of this whatsoever. No Bigfoot, none of it.
That's cool. No, I totally respect that. That's excellent. Have you heard of, being in Michigan yourself? When you are out and about, have you ever heard of or had people that you hang out with or respect that have claimed they've had any sort of encounters? Or what really got you wanting to be so creative to put that whole video together? Was it just the legend itself, or?
It was Steve Cook's song in 1987. It was just huge. It was a local thing, and it was awesome. It could have had global stature, but it just stayed right here in northern Michigan, just because it was a little thing that Steve Cook put together for April Fool's Day on the radio. And it's funny, it went for like a week without any attention whatsoever. They played it on April Fool's Day, and it got no attention. And then a week later, somebody says, "Hey," somebody called the radio station, and they said, "Hey, a week ago, I heard you guys play something about a Dogman. Can you play that again?" And so they played it again, and all of a sudden, a few more people called in and say, "Hey, that was cool. I want to hear that again." And then, boom! It exploded, and there were T-shirts and bumper stickers, mass hysteria. It was great. The summer of '87 was fun just because of Steve Cook and Jack O'Malley. I guess he was involved, but you never really hear of his involvement in it. I think he was working the recording equipment or something, but yeah, it was huge. It was just a summer-wide thing, and it made the summer fun. And I was a huge fan. If you know the song, in 1997, it was pretty obvious that a new version of the song was going to be played. And it came around, and nobody cared. Well, a lot of things had changed from 1987 to 1997. In 1987, I was 17 years old, hanging out at the Nightlife Arcade in downtown Mansalona. In 1997, the arcade was closed, and it seemed like everybody had a Nintendo 64, and they were at home playing Super Mario Brothers, Legends of Zelda, and nobody cares? Really? And nobody cared. And that really bothered me, because I was such a huge fan in 1987. So in 2007, or when 2007 was approaching, I thought, this is going to happen again. And I don't want to repeat 1997. I want 1987 back. And I guess the first thing I should have mentioned was I grew up with a cameraman for a dad. When my dad got out of the Army, he bought a home movie camera and projector in 1956. And I grew up watching all these old films of family vacations and stuff. When my parents divorced, my dad threw away all of the home movies. And that kind of disappointed me. Now, when I was like 8 years old, I discovered how cartoons are made. And I wanted to do that. I wanted to do stop motion animation. And my dad had a camera. I never got to do any of that. But when my dad retired and moved out of state, my girlfriend and I, who is my wife now, we went down to his place in Flushing, Michigan, and we helped him move. And we found, as we were cleaning out his house, we found the old home movie camera and projector. And I said, "Dad, can I have this?" He says, "Yeah, you can have that." So in the early 1990s, I was able to play with this camera and make a few films like I always wanted to. And eventually the film just became completely obsolete. I couldn't find it anymore. And the camera went in the closet until I got a computer. And then I discovered eBay, and I discovered I can find film again. And I got the bug again. So when 2007 was approaching, I thought, I don't want to repeat 1997. That was depressing. I want 1987 back. I want that mass hysteria. And I have the tools and the talent, I think, to make that happen. So I made my little movie, and it was fun. And I gave it to Steve Cook. I said, here, I made this for you. See what you can do with it. And it became eventually what it is today.
Wow. That right there. Thank you for breaking that all down. Like I said, been a big fan of Monster Quest since I was 11, being a fan of Linda Godfrey as well. Rest in peace. Being a part of like the North American Dogman project. I always, way before I knew of any of these people or knew Jody Cook, I was just a kid with an imagination. Huge fan of Monster Quest. I was actually quite sad when it dissipated, but then I understood in the future why it did. Yet that always really stood out to me as two of my favorites. The two episodes where they really dove in to, I believe, American Werewolves, and then I also believe maybe the American Wolfman. I don't directly remember the titles. I was like, wow, this is really interesting. And now fast forward that I have Midnight Lycanthropy and I work with Mr. Barber and like my science team and such, I still all the time get so many things submitted to me. And Brian himself can verify this. Just a few weeks ago, someone had took the segment where you're running in the ghillie suit and you turn. I was like, wow, man, what the heck? I'm baffled right now because this looks like it can't be moving like a person, but then I've seen Mike on Monster Quest move like I didn't think a person could move either. And Mr. Barber's like, yeah, but if you really look at this here, it does look like a ghillie suit still. And he talked me into again backing out of it and believing that yes, this was created fully because there's still people out there that I really value their opinion and who they are that are still really excited about this. I do know you made a part two as well, which I did see that. I can't remember fully where I saw that. I don't know if it was on YouTube. I don't know if it was Monster Quest that brought it up, but I did see that as well. That totally was like, okay, now I understand that this is all looped together. Yet, before we dive into that one, when you put on the ghillie suit, cranking around like that, it does sound like you already had creative aspects inside of you from when you were a child with, your father and all this. So that definitely helped inspire your creativity. What made you want to try and replicate maybe this unknown canine creature running like that? Was it also the whole entire song? Because I know you said the song, definitely inspired you to make the short, but what really got you to be so realistic with that, man?
I was just haunted by my disappointment in how badly the song went over in 1997. I was a huge fan, and this wasn't my project, but I still took it kind of personally, just because I don't know. I had a pretty fierce disdain for the video games that put my arcade out of business. This distracted the youth of that day that led them to not even care about this Dogman thing. So I wanted to reinvigorate that mass hysteria that the song created in 1987. And, that's just my sense of humor. I just wanted to promote Steve Cook's campfire story. I wanted it really bad, and I tried, and we still failed. It didn't go over the way I wanted it to. I don't think it went over the way Steve Cook wanted it to. It took its own direction. I guess Steve uploaded something on the internet, and he didn't realize that people could record, people could rip and steal his creation. They copied it and sent it all over the internet, and it became its own thing. So it didn't go the way we wanted to promote it, but the way it happened was still really fun. It eventually got us on Monster Quest, so that was great.
Yes, I mean, right there, Monster Quest is legendary. So it definitely was very successful in the aspect of what you were trying to do. Brilliant. I'm very baffled as to how the songs didn't really play out to the advantage or the direction y'all wanted. Because, man, those are legendary. I like both versions. I've listened to them numerous times. I don't really know. I think I like the newer one a little bit just because it's just got a little bit more of a newer sound, but they're both awesome. I just listened to them, I mean, on repeat like 4 or 5 times and then listen to the next one. And I was just so intrigued by all of it and was like, what the heck? When you first presented this, I know that Brian had mentioned O'Malley, and so have you. I have never heard of that gentleman. I've only heard of you and Steve Cook. What was Steve's first reaction? Was he on board at first, being like, what the heck? You just hit the jackpot? Or did you immediately let him kind of know that, hey, look, man, like I did this? Or did you like kind of yank his chain for a little bit?
Well, I tried promoting the Gable film myself. I listed it for sale on eBay, and I
Mm-hmm.
sent links to the auction to every TV and radio station in northern Michigan, hoping that somebody would buy it and put it on the air, and it would get attention, locally, because it was a northern Michigan thing. And I even went to one of the TV stations in Traverse City when 9 and 10 was still in Traverse City on top of the hill. I took it to them and I told them what I wanted to do. I made this movie. It promotes the campfire story, and I would love to see it, get some attention. And I received an email from the person that I talked to a couple of days later, and he says, "Yeah, this would have been great for the April Fool's Day, but that was 6 weeks ago, so we've decided we're not going to do anything with it." So that's when I took it to Steve Cook, and I said, "Here, I made this. See what you can do with it. I failed to promote it, so it's your turn." And when I first contacted him, he was avoiding me at all costs. Um, he didn't know what my intentions were. He thought maybe I was looking for money, big paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
I eventually wore him down, and he invited me into the studio, and we sat and chatted, and he was on board after he saw that my intentions were admirable. My intentions were admirable, so he he took my movie and he had it um, digitized locally, and whoever did it really did a fine job. They cleaned up the color, they darkened it. When I transferred my copy of it to digital, um, it's really light. It's faint. You can hardly see much of the beginning of it. Much of the light and the colors washed out. Um, and the entire version of the film is available on my channel. My channel is called Quinlan OUR12. And there's actually, you mentioned two Gable films. Well, there's actually three. I made a third Gable film, and it's a comedy, and there's sound, but it's at the very end. It's cute. I was pleased with how it turned out. And there are actually 7 songs, but they were only from 2 years. There are only slight differences. They both sound the same. So there's 7, but I believe they only encompass like 2 years, 87 and 97.
Ah, gotcha right there. Again, that is absolutely brilliant stuff. Before we start diving into your part two and the whole part three, I do want to hear if Mr. Barber, has anything he would like to chime in. But I'm baffled how that didn't get bought up and eaten up by everybody, considering for how long this has been talked about. I'm just baffled that no one really decided to jump on that back then for sure.
Yeah, it was to me the decision making process instead of making it modern, but the way you took it back, like it was, filmed back in I forget what era, the 60s or 70s, they said, with that camera and the fact he had a running sled and truck and everything. I mean, did you have all that on hand or did you have to seek that out?
I have all that. I collect antique Skidoo snowmobiles.
Mm-hmm.
I mainly collect the ones from 1959 to 1965, but yeah, the green snowmobile it belonged to my youngest son. It was like a 72 John Deere. So yeah, all that stuff was just junk in my yard. Projects. So I was just having fun with it. I was trying to make it look like 1977.
And when you see that floating around, or do you overhear people talking about it, and you just kind of sit back and giggle, going, "Yep, I know all about it."
Not very often. It has happened a few times. I get people talking about my movie, and I've had to tell one person, "Yeah, I made that." They said, "No, you didn't."
Well, I know the popular theory is the fact that the Men in Black got to you. You had to make that story up that you made it because the Men in Black were threatening you with all the stuff that Men in Black threaten people with.
Well, I can neither confirm nor deny that.
That's so funny. I do, again, as a video creator myself and a former actor and model, I've always been in front of cameras and working with cameras and been super creative. I'm really impressed again with how you put that together because it looks genuine. What made you want to make the second and third one?
I was just having fun with it. The Patterson Bigfoot film never had a follow-up, and that really was kind of my inspiration for my movie. I was making a Bigfoot movie. Only my movie wasn't just going to show the Dogman walking by. I wanted to attack the cameraman because that's something that Bigfoot didn't do. So that's where we went. Like I said, Steve Cook and I didn't really put this out the way we intended to. It took on its own form across the internet and became its own living thing. And at that point, I thought, if this is going to be a thing, then let's make it a thing. So I made a second film. The first film was made with 8mm film, and the second was made with 16. And I wanted to use the 16 because this was supposed to be a police investigation of the scene of the attack. And I thought the police would be more likely to have 16mm film than just an old 8 or Super 8 camera. But nobody ever really caught on to that. They never made the distinction between the 8mm and the 16. So I had to tell people that, and it just goes over their head.
I do remember how when I first saw the second one, it unfolded like you were just saying with the officers there. Also, once you explain the aspect of the special effects, being an actor, I actually worked on a few movies where we did a ton of special effects type aspects, and I really understood a lot afterwards. Makes sense how you were able to, spray down with the foam and the coloring. It looks so good. I totally love how you did so much with not really having any sort of budget. I'm still completely baffled how the first one didn't just go absolutely bananas with everywhere because we're talking about the time frame where everyone was into Silver Bullet. And then you got The Howling and American Werewolf in London. These are all things that now, fast forward, when you have modern day horror movies, you don't get that effect because that was some of the first time people had seen this raging, beast and such. Yet again, we're talking about a time where everyone should have really been thinking about that and be like, oh my goodness, because that was all mainstream. I don't know, man. I wouldn't be too, hard on yourself because it's a legendary film. And now, man, I mean, it's going around everywhere. I will definitely make sure to have your links up and let everyone really see what you created because when you type in the Gable Film now, it's going to be everywhere on different people's threads. No one really knows that you are the one that created it because a lot of people don't like to give proper shout outs to people. Also, if somebody is solidifying in their mind that it's real. They're not going to mention you either because you, like you are doing right now, have already broken this down. Yeah, it really shouldn't be like that. When people search the Gable film, your name should be the one coming up with that, because it is your creation. So, yeah, man, I'm going to try to do what I can to change that narrative a little bit. Just let everyone that is interested in this topic know that they can directly go to your page and see that, man.
Oh, I appreciate that. I didn't do this for attention. I didn't do it for money. I just wanted to promote the campfire story. And really that failed, but it's still fun. I'm glad I did it.
I gotta ask, do you sit back and actually kind of get a kick out of the fact that people are still arguing this and so-called experts are trying to point out musculature and everything in this? Or
Oh yeah,
I would just sit back and just have to giggle.
I'm giggling about it all the time.
Especially when you get your animal experts on there that look, you can see the front leg, and then I turned. It was like we talked about earlier that when they put that sideways where you were sideways, and they're like, oh, you can see the musculature in the forearm and this. And it's like I raised wolf hybrids. As soon as I lighten it up, it is completely smooth. It's like, what picture are you looking at? It's a suit. Even I can tell that.
The best part about the whole thing is that it's regular 8mm film. It's poor resolution. Your imagination fills in the blanks. What you can't make out from the lack of high resolution, your imagination, it just completes the image. And that's what really makes this great. I mean, that's why I did it with 8mm film to begin with.
Get some of that pareidolia effect going for.
Oh yeah.
That makes it's genius. Sorry, I'm not trying to brown nose. It's just genius on the part because, like you said, you did this for fun, and now it's one of the most debated films on the internet.
Second most debated film. I mean, Bigfoot, of course, the Patterson Bigfoot film is the number one, but everybody says mine is number two. That's great.
I mean, congratulations, I guess, are in order for that one because
I'm so flattered by that.
What's next? Anything else coming up, or what? We're going to pop us with another surprise that they're going to debate for 40 more years?
Well, Year of the Dogman 2027 is actually approaching in a couple of years, and I have ideas. The Gable film is a trifecta, and it's over and done with. It's run its course, but I have ideas. I haven't settled in on anything, but I would like to do something for Year of the Dogman 2027, but I don't know. I'm getting up there. I'm 55 years old, and I don't run on all fours anymore. I got arthritis in my wrists, and it's not going to be 1987 ever again. But I still know how to have fun.
I think we're pretty close to the same age, but you've taken, to me, a piece of 1987, and at least a piece of it is continuing to live on through current day and is going to be debated for quite a while.
I wish Steve Cook's song could get more attention. That was like the greatest campfire story in the entire world. I hate to think that maybe the Gable film gets more exposure because Steve's song is what inspired me. And that song is what should be on everybody's mind. I'm flattered that my film gets so much attention, but I wish the song would get as much or more.
Yeah, I can totally see that. Do you still talk to Steve? Because ask Steve, man, if he has a specific link that he wants up in the description as well. So that way we can, get that out there more. The two songs I told you I heard, I'm pretty sure aren't from his threads that I looked upon on YouTube. They're just people that have uploaded it. I don't think they have anything to do with Steve, his radio station, or yourselves. Yes, if you were able to contact him and see if he has a YouTube link or such that he wants up, I mean, I could definitely go amongst and, promote that myself. And to give you a little bit of a chuckle, I did kind of my own little spin-off of that where I tried to sound cool like him and talk about encounters up here in Maine that I called lore. Yeah, he's definitely awesome as well. I've tried to sit down and speak with him, but see if you could potentially find us a real link or contact him so that way we can get both of your stuff out there.
I could see. I do send him emails from time to time. I'll send him pictures of my latest Halloween costume.
Yes.
Just idle chit chat from time to time. Things that I think he might find interesting.
I saw his retirement video
Yes.
that he posted with the Dogman bringing in the cake. We played that song probably until about 10 years ago. We played that song every time we would go out 2-track and looking for Bigfoot. So that's, it's just the thing to do, at least for my family. I'm sure if other ones do it too. I mean, it's just that creepy campfire song that is great for when you're out looking for cryptids to begin with.
Seriously, and it's got such a unique sound, man. I'm like a new age kind of metalcore, type music where it sounds like dance clubs, but it's awesome. Even though Mr. Cook isn't here, to, I guess, answer this for himself, do you know, Mike, if he felt interest in this topic as well, or do you know where he kind of stood on it? Did he have any sort of real potential belief in the Michigan Dogman?
The story that I remember, I mean, he and I have never really swapped notes. We've never coordinated our stories. We both took the Gable film in our own different directions. And sometimes we stepped on each other's toes. But really, even after the fact, we've never sat down and really chit-chatted. But the story that I remember from way, way long ago, Steve Cook and Jack O'Malley had been researching these legends, and they wanted to write a book. But everything started out pretty quickly. They got a lot of information all at once, and then all of a sudden, boom, it just stopped. And so after a while, they got frustrated and decided not to write a book. They just wrote a song and put it on the radio for April Fool's Day. And then after the fact, after all the mass hysteria had run itself out, Steve Cook would still get emails and letters from time to time of people, giving Steve their own accounts of Dogman encounters. So it may have been just a one-time thing. It may have been just a joke on the radio, but it has a following, and it continues to flourish and produce more information. He might actually be able to write a book someday.
Right? Yes. This is, again, absolutely awesome. Mr. Barber, how do you, feel about all that? And have you by any chance ever had a chance to sit down and talk to Steve Cook himself?
No, I knew Jack O'Malley just through the gym he worked out at and trained him a few times. So I never met Steve, and this was back before just before Jack got into politics. So, now he's Representative Jack, and I don't hear from him. When he was just customer Jack, we would shoot the breeze all the time.
What was O'Malley's opinion about all this when you got a chance to speak to him? Did he ever really open up to you, or?
It was after I had seen the Monster Quest. I'm like, hey, what? And he kind of chuckled about it, and that was about it. So I asked if it was, because I did ask this, so that it's not real, and he's like, no, it was, but he didn't go into the story about April Fools. I thought for some reason it was a Halloween thing, but tiny roads of memory. The one thing I wanted to ask was, we had an incident where a guest that was on the show had her story on These Woods Are Haunted, and they messed it. It sounded like they left details out and stuff. Did you encounter that with Monster Quest at all, or did they get the details right on what you did and how you did it, or did they add details that weren't there? How was it to work with Monster Quest?
We actually filmed that twice. They didn't like me much the first time we filmed it. I really wanted to be involved with the creative process, and the whole thing was, well, it wasn't scripted, but they had a direction in mind that they were taking it. The only creative outlet that I had was I was wearing this silly novelty wolf hat. It was just, a fuzzy bald cap with ears and a mouth, and it looked like a wolf head, and it was cute, and it's something that I wore all the time. Actually, I would wear it when I was riding my snowmobile. I wouldn't wear a helmet on my snowmobile. I wore this dog hat thing, and I would wear that snowboarding at the ski resorts, and everybody knew me as the Dogman even before they knew me as the Dogman, because I wore that silly hat. So that was the only creative outlet that I had with filming Monster Quest. So there's only one scene where you can see me with the wolf hat, and it's while the credits are rolling. And then they came back maybe 6 weeks later with Linda Godfrey, and we filmed Monster Quest again. And this time I didn't have the wolf hat, and they liked me a little bit more. So yeah, I don't think I've ever mentioned that to anybody. Yeah, we filmed Monster Quest twice, and they came back a second time and, didn't use any of the footage from the first interview.
It just didn't flow right, or did they give you a reason why?
Yeah, we didn't discuss it, but I'm pretty sure it was just the hat. They didn't want me wearing the hat. In fact, the executive producer on site and the cameraman, Frank, and the cameraman and maybe one other person, they were at their vehicle digging through boxes and stuff. And I heard Frank Haney yelling about me because I told him the hat is non-negotiable, because he kind of objected to me wearing the hat. And I said, the hat is non-negotiable. I need to be involved with some part of the creative process in this. So the hat is non-negotiable. So I heard him yelling rather loudly, it's non-negotiable.
So a wolf hat, nearly one of my favorite episodes of Monster Quest.
Yeah, I thought it went better the first time around. The second version with Linda Godfrey, that was more scripted than the first one was. And that really left a bad taste in Steve Cook's mouth, because they made him look like the bad guy. He didn't like the way they portrayed him. And me either. They wanted to catch him in a lie. Well, they knew from the beginning that it was a lie, that the whole thing was a hoax. But they wanted a dramatic effect, so they made Steve Cook to be the bad guy, and could have been better.
Yeah, they do kind of make him look to be almost a schmuck, because the way they cut the interview in half, the first half saying the story behind it is this, and then they go through all their analysis, and then he says, well, once we found out about this, we better come clean. And it's like, yeah, I can see where that would leave a foul taste.
Yeah, they made it look like some kind of investigation, and Linda Godfrey was the lead investigator. And no, they knew from the very beginning that this was a hoax film that I made. This was just a guy playing with a camera out in the woods.
That now is a legend. Man, I love that scene, dude. Where you're sitting there chopping wood, man, with like the flannel on, bro. Still remember that part, dude. I can like see it all in my head right now as we're talking.
Oh yeah, my dad had one of those old snowmobile with I think it was a Scorpion though, but like that vintage with the round hood, and that brought back a lot of memories. And like I said, just the way the grainy film, and I love the fact that half of the experts looked less than credible by the time they were done with their explanation.
So true. And I mean, still, like I said, people are tossing this around at this moment, probably somewhere. I admitted it earlier. Mr. Barber had to push me back into reality, because I was, a little sold for a second as well, being like, this looks so real. Yet, as we are starting to tie this up, Mike, because you are an extremely busy guy, and well, just you investing your time here is legendary. Yeah, actually, Mike, since you got that sense of humor, a quick little story. Mr. Barber's heard this as well before we see if he has any final thoughts. I used to hang out with this girl that she was cool, but a little annoying and a little too much attention that I didn't have to invest. Well, then she, in the future, when we kind of, I decided she was in the friend zone, she wanted me to hang out with one of her other friends that had happened to be on a photo shoot with me that I didn't know about, whatever. Super annoying though. Again, I don't have the most time in life. And it's like, look, no, I can't hang out with you every night. Okay. So finally, I'm like, yeah, sure. You want to come hang out tonight? I have a little bit of extra time. Gave her the direction of this old road. It led to this cemetery. And I had told her that there's this old building. As soon as you pull into this cemetery, that's my apartment right there. Just go inside, go down the old rock crumbling stairs, and off to the right, you're going to find my casket. Worked like a legendary aspect. Never heard from her again, man.
I'm going to write that down. I'm going to use that someday.
Seriously, worked like a gem. Mr. Barber, my guy. Well, is there anything else you would like to ask Mike before we allow him to get back to things he needs to attend to, or anything else that you would like to talk about, or any plugs or shout outs that you'd like to toss out?
The only plug I want to give is to Mike for the fact that he's being very direct and honest about the fact that Steve Cook's song inspired him, and he keeps trying to drive that point home to give credit to Steve. So, hopefully whoever sees this maybe we can get Steve's song back on the map, because with this interview, you're telling the inspiration behind the legend at this point. And so to me, that speaks volumes. Not only that, but your creativity for what you accomplished, and something that's seriously probably going to outlive us and will still be debated is amazing. And just the fact that you didn't do this for anything, but you did it for fun, and A1 to make 1987 come back with that Dogman hysteria and give credit to Steve. So I think that's amazing.
Yeah, I've always believed that Steve was the one with all the talent in this whole Twisted Tale, because he's the one who came up with something original. My film was just following him. I was following what he started, using my own tools, and he started it, and I just added to it, and it's been fun.
Yes, it has right there. I love it. Well, again, if you do get a chance to talk to Steve, I can do some amazing art for him, and I can do some other aspects if he's ever interested in, no pun intended, revamping that song, and actually getting it out there properly. Like if he doesn't have a link already, be super easy to put together an amazing visual video for him. So again, it'd be another way for him to properly get that information out there and actually have that song tied to him. And like I said, not just a search in the YouTube where you go to somebody else's page and you don't even really pay tribute to Steve at all,
Yeah, we need to do something.
Yeah, I agree. Well, you heard that, the audience. Mike is a very busy guy, of course. He cannot sit here and hang out with us all night, yet he did allot a ton of time and information. And in my opinion, we can finally clear the airwaves that, yes, the Gable film was done in tribute to Mr. Steve Cook. Go over to Mike's YouTube, which I will have up in the description down below. Check out the original film. I will also have that direct link up in and about. Hopefully, we do get a chance to get Steve's link up as well. Yet, until next time, this will be the conclusion of the meeting of the Midnight Society for the early hours of the morning. If I do loathe anything, it is the sunlight. Mr. Barber, thanks for hanging out with us tonight.
Absolutely. My pleasure. Thank you so much for letting me.
Of course. And Mike, my guy, thank you for for clearing the airway for us. And again, just sitting down and hanging out with us tonight here in the Fox Den.
It was my pleasure.
Ooh, my creatures of the night, you legends, you. I do adore every single one of you. And thank you for hanging out tonight. If you do enjoy my content, please like, comment, subscribe, and share the truth to the algorithm.